celebrating the power of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Joan Cronan, Part 2.
Welcome to Part 2 of my interview with Joan Cronan on Anything is Possible. I love having you here. I could hang out with you all
Great
day.
to be here. I'm going to tell the audience something, and I say this all the time. Halloran and I get to have lots of lunches together. We speak at the same banquets. He MCs, I MC, and I always say, we're so lucky to have you in Knoxville.
Thank you.
You are such a talent beyond our market, but we want to keep you forever.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we were talking about your late husband, and you were talking about the partnership. And I remember, I'm always, whenever anyone is speaking, I'm taking notes. And when somebody puts a lot of preparation, and I always pay attention, just nerdy that way. But this is what I do, this is my craft, and one day I would like to be really good at it. So whenever,
really good.
whenever I hear somebody, so Archbishop Rowan Williams was speaking at the wedding of William and Kate.
I was looking at the dress.
I was too. But nobody was listening to the sermon. And so I remember that day, it was up on the monitor. Everybody in the world was watching this wedding. And then he started speaking. And when he started speaking, I just honed in because I'm thinking, what do you say?
In front of the world.
So when you were talking about your husband, this is what hit me. He started with this quote from St. Catherine of Siena, who said, "Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire."
That is so good.
So then he comes down and he says this. He said, "Marriage should transform as husband and wife make one another their work of art. It is possible to transform as long as we do not harbor ambitions to reform our partner. There must be no coercion if the spirit is to flow. Each must give the other space and freedom."
That is awesome.
Is that?
Email me that.
I will. Isn't
that's
that
perfect.
Wasn't that your relationship?
Absolutely, it's yours too.
Like your husband was like, if she is who God created her to be, she'll set the world on fire. And me, and husband and wife making each other their work of art.
Those are beautiful words, but I didn't hear them that day. I was looking at the dress, but I will keep them now.
All right, so now let's talk about the book. I'm glad you wrote a book.
Well, you know, it's something that I've always said I wanted to do, and I want to give a lot of credit to Rob Shriver, who worked with me. Rob is a PhD journalist from UT, works at Oak Ridge. I knew Debbie, his wife, but didn't know Rob, and Rob and I started working together. Bless his heart, he followed me around, listened to my speeches, and that's kind of where we started. And my goal in the book was not, this is Joan Cronan, this is your life, or really this is Lady Vols and this is your life, but it was to talk about what sport does for us. I mean, you do not listen to the evening news or any speech that people don't use sports terms.
Right.
So why do we do it? We do to gain lessons that are going to help us in life and in business.
What was the first big lesson?
I think the first big lesson was you got to dream big, because I couldn't play. So I had to know that I had to have a goal. And you have to do that in a goal. But I think other than that, and wanting to have opportunities for women, I think the lessons you learn is, and it's really common, how do you win and how do you lose, and what do you learn from that, and how do you recover? I was talking to somebody the other day about winning championships, and you know, you think of when we won 3 in a row, that sounds easy, but it's easier to come back after a loss than it is to continue winning. You have to work harder. You can't get complacent.
And you know, I never thought about that until you said that today. I never thought about what the weight of multiple championships is. It's weighty.
It is. It really is. And I hats off to Connecticut, what they have done here to win the championships they've had recently, and they've handled the pressure. Pat and her teams handle the pressure, but it's tougher. You know, you listen to coaches' shows. After a win, everybody's excited. After a loss, you're fired up. You're going to go back. This is what we're going to do. And that same thing happens with a season. You know, if you come off a season that wasn't as good as you wanted to, it's easier to build up. If you come off with a win, you can get complacent, and you don't do that. You don't want your banker to do that. You don't want your doctor to do that. So I think those are the lessons that you learn from sport.
We'll talk more about this in just a moment. This is Joan Cronan. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
One day I was sitting, I can remember sitting in the kitchen, and I said, I'm overwhelmed. I've said yes to too many things. I know what my priorities are, and I'm not keeping them.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. My friend Joan Cronan is here, and I feel lucky to call you friend because for many years I watched you and the athletic department winning all those championships. The first time I got involved with the team, I actually sang 3 times a champion.
Absolutely, I was going to tell the audience that was our first, and you know, 3 times a lady and 3 times a champion is still one of my favorite songs.
I would love to, if there was video of that.
I think I'll find it.
That was something else.
Yeah.
And then when we opened the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, I was honored to be commissioned with Dr. Cedric Dent to write the song The Dream.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the support.
I'm speaking at the Hall of Fame right in the near future, and I will use that video and that song to kick off my speech.
The Dream. So I read this really great book, and you mentioned this in one of our prior segments, and so I've never asked you about this. Checklist. I read a book called The Checklist Manifesto.
I've read it. It's good.
And you said you have these lists. Teach me about that. When did you start making lists? What kind of list do you make? How do you use lists in your life?
Well, we all make to-do lists, and those are important. We got to, you know, where we have to stop on the way, all of these kind of things. But one day I was sitting, I can remember sitting in the kitchen, and I said, I'm overwhelmed. I've said yes to too many things. I know what my priorities are, and I'm not keeping them. And so I sat down and I said, what are your priorities? And if you ask Joan Cronan, it would be God, family, Tennessee, Knoxville, golf, tennis, all of those things. And I have a problem saying yes to too many things. So I want to try to control my priorities. So I like to check things off my list. I've even put things on my list after I've done it just to check it off.
Right.
So I came up with what I call the bells. And each day I want to check off and make the bells ring. The B is I'm going to read my Bible or do a devotional each day. The E is I'm going to exercise, do something that's good for me. One of the L's is continue to learn something new every day. The second L is write a letter or a note to somebody you're thinking about. And Halloran emails don't count. It has to be a handwritten note. And then the last one is to do a special project around the house. I hate housework. So to check the S, I have to do something around the house. I do pretty good at the office, but around the house I don't. So, you know, and it's really worked. It's made it conscious of what I need to do, just like our to-do list. So I wish I could sit here and say, I make the bells ring every day. I don't, but the days I do, I feel pretty good about it.
I had an idea that I want to tell you about in just a moment. So I was going through the contents in the book, and part 1 is about people. What is the major thing that you want to communicate about people? I believe it's that people and relationships are important.
You and I are right on the same page. You cannot be successful if you can't surround yourself with the right people, you can't motivate them, you can't make them part of your team. So if you ask anybody in the business world, what's your biggest problem? They don't talk about cash flow, they don't talk about objectives, they talk about getting the right people working. So
how'd you become such a good people picker?
I wish I was perfect, but I think you need to know who you need and what you need in that position. And sometimes it's not the person you think that would be the best one. It's who can help you get to the right spot. And the first thing is core value and integrity. You know, everybody says, how do you hire the right coach? Well, the first thing is they have to have that integrity factor. And then the second thing is I'm not going to interview them unless they know the sport and they're good at it. And so the next thing is, do they have a passion about Tennessee? Do they want to be here because of our program?
Passion?
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
you know, that's just life.
That's self-explanatory.
You know, you just don't want to be involved with anybody that doesn't have a passion for life.
Persistence.
I think you don't give up. How many teams have you seen come back and win when you thought it was over?
One chapter you have here is write clearly.
And that's talking about communication, and it's speaking and writing, you know, and be sure you say what you mean. I think I'm having the privilege of speaking at the College of Communication graduation. I was working on the speech, and you know, what an important factor in whatever we do. And one thing that women have a trouble with is being direct. We try to sugarcoat everything, and I think that's one thing that sports teaches you. When a coach calls timeout, you only have 30 seconds to tell them what to do. You
Right.
can't say, Sally, that's really nice. You have to develop that relationship. You got to say, Sally, this is what you need to do and how you need to do it. And so I think that's important.
So this was my idea. I think this should be a course.
Well, I'm doing a lot of speaking at corporations, so that the business school is using it. I speak to the business school and those kind of things. That's a compliment. Thank you.
No, I think inside corporations and inside colleges and universities, I think this should be a course. Because I think all of the elements that you describe, these lessons, it says lessons.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. I think these ought to be lessons. And you know what? You know, as we've talked about your life, and that sport is life with the volume turned up, I think it's so awesome that you are leveraging what you've learned to help people grow.
You know, and that's what you do. We love to make a difference in people's lives. And, you know, in this transition, as I call it, two things that I've really enjoyed. One is I'm on advisory committee at the law school to help teach leadership to lawyers. You know, I think that's important. They're assumed to be leaders, and we don't do much in the curriculum. So that's been a lot of fun. And in the business school, I'm working on the management advisory board and looking at how we can help improve that. So
I don't know why sitting here, and maybe it's something we're supposed to collaborate on, I don't know.
You never know.
But I really do think there ought to be a Joan Cronan Leadership Institute.
Well, I think
where people can deep dive on this stuff. Because I want to give you this compliment. You as a leader are phenomenal because you have that perfect commingling of presence and power.
well, that's a real compliment.
I mean, you're the kind of person that people want to follow and that want to give their very best. I have no doubt in my mind that you have tremendous focus, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the things that's missing is people who can win and smile.
Well, yeah, I think I appreciate that. You know, I think my daughters tell me that I'm the best delegator. They know, and I laugh and say I'm not. I'm a connector, and I really like to do that. I like to help people be the best that they can be, and you can't do that by yourself. You have to connect yourself, and that's why I enjoy doing programs with you, because our vision is the same.
Yeah, it's that same vision. Yeah. All right, so as you are traveling, as you are speaking, as you are making this transition, I don't think we've ever talked about, is it difficult for you to step out of being the athletic director and doing this?
You know,
are you struggling with that at all?
I don't think so, because I loved what I did. And I love the university, and I will always, I was at a softball game yesterday, and at any event that I can possibly be at. But I feel a calling now, and we all know that there's a time and a place, and transition and change happens. I am absolutely as passionate about this part of life as I was at 12 years old.
Right, this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I said this to you on the radio. See, I don't see you as a women's athletic director, nor do I see you as a female leader. You're just a heck of a leader.
Well, thank you.
Would you ever want to be president of the University of Tennessee?
No.
Would you ever want to be governor of the state of Tennessee?
Not at this stage of life. I love Bill Haslett and what he's doing. But,
I love that. Not at this stage. I like that.
You know, it's. But I think, you know, I guess bottom line is I want to make a difference, and I want to put myself in a position that I continue to help make a difference.
Would you ever want to be the athletic director of the
Well, I had a
University of
chance.
Tennessee?
I was the athletic director for a transition period, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But again, this is the stage I'm in, and this is where we're going. And what I want to do is use all the wonderful experiences that I gained through that to continue to make a difference in other ways.
All right. Well, we got
You're
one more
good.
segment. We got one more segment, and when we come back, I want to go to school.
Okay.
This is Joan Cronan. This is Anything is Possible, because it is.
Coming up,
I think my faith fuel would be seeing people succeed. It's the people that fuel me, not the wins and losses.
This is Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and this is Joan Cronan. Let's go to school. You have a fabulous family. We were at the Boys and Girls Club event where they honored you, and it was a richly
really
deserved
neat.
honor.
Yeah.
And when I saw your grandkids on the video, I was watching you, and then I was watching them. That's got to be fulfilling.
That's what you call pride.
Yeah.
And that just shows. When somebody said, Joan, what do you think about your grandchildren? I said, you know, I smile every time I think about it. I love grandchildren. I love the headlights and the tail lights. I love to when they come, and it's okay when they go sometimes. But they're just fun, and I have more time to spend than, you know, in the hassles of.
So can I tell you what I observed?
Yes.
We're at the end of the program. We were straggling behind. I ate my lunch after the fact, and we're all standing around, we're talking, and then life started to happen again. It was about who was picking up whom.
Absolutely.
What time was the tennis match that day, and you shifted immediately. You were like, okay, I'm gonna pick up so-and-so. Yeah. And your daughter was saying, now you need to be early because you got to be in line before the, right?
That was a good, and that is life.
Right, but then your older grandsons were going to play in a tennis tournament.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you got laser, you looked at them and you said, now what's the deal when you get out on that court? And you guys had some little saying.
Yeah.
What did you tell him? Do you remember?
This was a joke. I said lob short and rush the net.
Yeah.
But I keep it between the lines. Keep your eye on the ball. But it's so much fun, you know. And I think we can't get pigeonholed. We're all people that have lots of life. You know, you have your church and you have your school and you have your parents, and I just think that's what makes life special.
But that was what made it so beautiful to me, is that the same passion you had for the Lady Vols and for UT, when your grandsons were walking out that door, they had a kind of a bounce in their step because you were present. It wasn't it was
I'll
like,
see you later, yeah.
Yeah. When they turned, you stopped everything, said, hey, I want you to know how much I love you. So imagine us sitting in your living room and you're giving your grandkids and me the speech. And this is life, and this is not what's in the book, this is what's in my heart. What do you say to them?
The first thing is they need to know you love them, and what they do is important. I go back and I use this, you know, every year you have to give the kind of State of the Union to the athletes. And I always told them 4 things. One is, remember who you are and who you represent, because that's real important. You have responsibility for your actions and accountability for your teammates' actions. Number 3 is the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. And then number 4 is Luke 12:48 is my favorite Bible verse. To whom much is given, much is expected. So I think we'd talk about some of those things, but the first thing is, I love you and I want to help you and I want to be a part of your life.
It seems to me like that's who you are everywhere. And doesn't it feel good to be congruent?
It does. You don't have to be, you can be the same thing everywhere.
Last thing I'll put on the table is this. I don't believe that anything happens in the world without believers.
I agree.
That's the reason I say anything is possible. Sure, not everything is possible, but there's a whole lot more that we can do and be. And it starts with just a first believer, somebody that's willing to say, it hasn't been done, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. And
somebody in the stands yelling, "Shoot, baby."
Yeah, shoot, baby. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What fuels your faith? What keeps you believing? What's your faith fuel?
That's a great question. I think my faith fuel would be seeing people succeed. If I can see people succeed, we've had several reunions and athletes coming back, and just to see their success.
Yeah.
To go to a tennis match this week and watch my grandsons win singles and doubles was fun for me. To watch my two granddaughters say, "Grandy, we either gonna play tennis or swim," and what they want to do, and the pride in making that happen. That's what fuels me.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
not, when you got ready to retire, everybody, after a year in living competition, everybody wanted to know what's your favorite moment. And I think that everybody thought I would say this championship or that championship. And what I say, it's being able to be a part of people's life. It's the people that fuel me, not the wins and losses.
Wow, that's big. Well, sport is life.
It is, and it's fun.
With the volume turned up.
I think our volume's been turned up.
It's way up.
Thank
Joan
you,
Cronan,
sir.
thank you for being here.
Oh, it's great.
All right. And don't forget, folks, anything is possible. Go ahead and try. We'll see you next time.